The house stood, well, stands, but it feels somehow different after these last 13 years of exile. Some way up a hill from the centre of the Sheffield suburb of Crosspool, which itself sits high on one of Sheffield's 7 hills. If, on entering the house, one turned around to face the door again, at least until the late 90s, on each side of it was a stained glass window. As a child, I spent hours sitting high up the stairs which rose opposite, completely under the spell of such devastating gorgeousness, especially when the colours twinkled and blurred in sunshine. The front room was called the dining room, despite the fact that we ate together in the other rear living room, which was, of course, known as the sitting room. My grandfather would sit for hours in his favourite chair, which was an armchair quite distinct from any of our other furniture. I would be lying on the floor in front of the open fire we then had, and he would send me to the kitchen to fetch him an apple, a knife, a particular bone-handled one, and a small plate. Once the apple was pared, an archaic word even then, cored and sliced, I would be offered a piece. I never refused, and I could still conjure the particular clean sweetness of it. The kitchen. I remember slicing green beans in a mechanical bean slicer, and I remember the smell of onions and mince being mixed up for meatballs in my mother's new electric mixer. I remember the feel of the wet washing as I helped my mother remove it from the top-loading washing machine and into the spin dryer, which would roar and wobble and spit out water into a bowl at its foot, in the most exciting, eccentric and satisfying of ways, actually dancing around on the spot somewhat, and appearing to teeter always on the brink of falling over. The back room was the room in which we ate when we ate together. Every December the 26th, the extended family would visit. There would be a huge cold meal with ham and tongue and eggs and salad and pickled beetroot and much buttered sliced bread. There would be sauerkraut and Crackers brand beetroot and horseradish, a slightly then exotic nod to my father's Polish origin. None of this was calculated to appeal to small children, and we got by on little but hysterical energy. After the meal, everyone would gather around the piano to sing Christmas carols from the very distinctive and precisely circumscribed, a few miles at most, local tradition. The bathroom had a double cupboard, one half of which contained a large copper boiler. The upper layer of the other half was towels and the like, and the lower layer resembled some kind of archaeological site, where the further back one delved, the deeper into family history one reached. I particularly recall my grandfather's shaving gear, brushes, razors, soap bowl. Near to the front there were also many pairs of unsavoury looking nail scissors and a cylindrical carton of paradichlor-benzene, which never seemed to be put to any use, but just was. When I was small and could not sleep, I would creep into my parents' bedroom, where I would be allowed to lie beside them until sleep found me, and I could be carried back to my own bed, where I would mysteriously discover myself come morning. I remember the way the headlights of cars would trace out an arc across the bedroom's ceiling as they passed on down the hill. Nowadays, this would be continuous. Then, it was intermittent and magical. My grandfather loved to stand at his bedroom window, which, because of our position on the hill, enjoyed views across the whole town, over valleys and to other hills and into the distance. Sometimes he could identify places, but often he was reduced to a near mute wonder at the distant strangeness before him. Occasionally, I would be called in to look too, and he would ask me whether a particular place was such and such a location, which in my youth and my limited experience was a question I could never answer. I loved him though, and was happy to join in. still have an entirely false memory of looking out of my bedroom window and seeing a cow, somehow illuminated with a peripheral glow, standing on the lawn. The whole thing is overlaid with so many rememberings and re-rememberings over the years that I trust very little now except for the feel of it, which has stayed constant with me. I think that I insisted to my mother I had seen it, and I think she reminded me the evening before we had read the nursery rhyme book in which the cow jumped over the moon.